Welcome to Go For Side Effects. I'm your host, Kevin Simon. You all know my co-host, John. John, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. Doing good.
And when this is part 2, so we brought Wade back because he is our highway of information man. Wade, how are you?
Absolutely fabulous, man.
That's what I like to hear, man. Absolutely fabulous. So, Wade, let's go ahead and let's talk. Let's talk about a little bit about, because one of the questions we got on here, and I'm going to just shoot this straight out in the very beginning. So we had a question and somebody asked that, hey, is there such thing as a diagnosis with a percentage as Gulf War illness? And I would like you to explain this, please.
Right. As of yet, it is soon to be here, but there is what they call an IDC, International Diagnostic Code, that designates Gulf War illness as a condition. That is why over all these years, the VA has always done is signs and symptoms, medically unexplained environmental exposures for certain conditions. I use myself, for example, cluster headaches. There was no other reasonable as to why I'd had cluster headaches or developed cluster headaches, and they directly related to sarin exposure. But cluster headaches has an IDC code, so they can assign the code, they assign the rating. It's all your signs and symptoms, your headaches, your gastro, your skin, your respiratory, your nervous system. And they will give you a diagnosis for each one of those, or an unknown diagnosis, and then assign a rating to that. But the IDC code for Gulf War illness specifically does not exist at this time.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. And the other thing on that is because somebody asked that, and I know, I mean, for me, when I go to the doctors or if I go anywhere, they're like, you have Gulf War illness, but you're not diagnosed with it. You just have it. And I'm like, well, explain to me what that means. And they say, we can't. Not until they actually come out with the code. They're not going to explain it.
Right. And it breaks it down. I've seen that it'll be released at the end of this month at the RAC meeting, the proposed IDC code. And it is essentially a collection of signs and symptoms. But when you go to your doctor, they know you have neuropathy. Why? Because they can see the IDC code for neuropathy right on your file. And that's what I've argued in the past. I've argued with our friend over it. We've come this far, this long to get a code. I personally don't see where it's going to make or break. It means nothing to me. And so we get a code today for the next 10 years going to the doctor. They're not going to have no idea what it is. So
right. And they're still not going to sit there and say, hey, all right, we now know what it is. Okay, let's get right into this and we're going to heal you.
Exactly.
You know? Hell, I just went to the doctor a couple Mondays ago and they're like, hey, we misdiagnosed your neuropathy. We got to start all over. And that comes to my next one. So when you go into the hospital, one of the questions that was asked to me was when you go to the emergency room or you get put in a hospital, 24, is it 24, 48 hours you got to contact the VA?
I thought it was 72 now, but I could be wrong.
I think it's 48.
I think it might be 48.
Right. Okay. I think it is 48. But on top of that, they will decide from there if they transport you, or you get in a car, transport yourself, or you stay there. And there is a guy that I do know that he actually, I think in Milwaukee, the hospitals kept him there. And he couldn't walk. He just woke up, completely could not walk anymore. And I could not. I could not believe that. And it's like one of their major hospitals that the VA said, keep them there, treat them. And he had great service. And they start figuring out what was going on with him. And hopefully I can get him on. He can explain what happened to him. He was special forces, but he's 4 months. 4 months. He had to stay in the hospital.
He had to be
Okay.
there 4 freaking months.
Yeah, he had a little
For-
walk again.
So it was just out of the blue kind of thing?
No, yeah, he just woke up. He said it happened to him another time, and it kept him in there for what? I think it kept him in there for 2 months the first time. And from what I'm learning about his story is when he was diagnosed, they knew it was neurological. They didn't know it's the brain was not signaling to the feet or the legs to work anymore. Well, this time he says they have it figured out. And so I'll be curious to see what he says.
I tell you what, with us men and women from the Gulf War, I was laughing because it was either that or cry. I swear to goodness, every other day or whatever, it's a new adventure and freaking pain. What today?
I agree with that.
I was telling you earlier before we came live. All of a sudden, I had a pain in my left side today. It was like, holy shit, I couldn't hardly freaking move. And I'm like, what the bloody hell? And I'm like, it took like 3 hours before it dissipated. And there was no reasonable explanation that I could think of. I didn't slip, I didn't fall, I didn't reach out and grab. It was just there. So, I mean, it's some crazy shit with our bodies. I just
Right. And I mean, and they're never going to know everything.
No.
But I will say this. So Jeremy did send me a message right after our last podcast, and he made a really good point. He said, if you mix all the chemicals in your house, all the chemicals, that Mr. Yuck would be on, you would have a toxic exposure right then and there. It's the same thing we're exposed to. I was like, oh shit, that's a good point. To me, that's a really good point. I recommend not doing that, guys and girls. So,
yeah, that would be bad.
Get a Mr. Yuck sign. Now, the other question was fraud.
Oh.
And this is the one I want to get into. So, the VA is now looking at people who write nexus letters. And people who also write in letters to for you and from when the time you served. So they're starting to check this stuff because they're trying to weed out all the fraud, which I completely understand. And I'm all for it. If there's fraud, I think they ought to be charged and not be able to get their VA disability benefits. I agree with that.
100%.
And the question is somebody who is out of state, you don't know them, but you find them to write a nexus letter and you send them all their information. Could that be considered under fraud? It depends what you send them. And it depends if they're a doctor or a nurse practitioner or just a nurse. So all that stuff, all that weighs into the fraud part and the non-fraud.
Now, Kevin, why don't you elaborate? You, Wade, and I all know what a nexus letter is. Why don't you elaborate on what exactly that is for maybe somebody who doesn't understand what that is?
Okay, so anybody don't know what a nexus letter is? It is a letter from a physician, a physician's assistant, nurse practitioner, all that actually you send them all your information. They look it over and they make a comprehensive explanation if the illnesses or the problems you have could have been caused by Desert Storm. That's really what a nexus letter is.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, also, in addition to that, even if you were, let's say you're still married and you were married during the time in service when your issue started, your wife actually can write an nexus letter. A battle buddy, somebody you were in your unit, can write a letter and say, yes, I have the same symptoms. I was present when this happened to this individual. So, there's a couple of different ways. I personally I didn't have to go to that length. I don't know if either one of you ever had to provide or did provide an access letter. I did not.
No, me neither.
But
no, in your nexus letter, basically, when you go for your CMP, and whoever you're seeing, like you say, doctor, nurse practitioner, when they write their statement, that is considered, if they're writing a statement in favor or I guess against you, that's going to be their nexus letter. I did get a nexus letter from a respiratory doctor at one time. Didn't need it, but I did get one from him. And you're talking about the private people that do it, right, Kevin?
Yeah.
And we discussed that before. I go two ways on that. 20 years ago, when I'm trying to prove my case, I would have said it's a complete scam. You're paying somebody to look over your file and then write you a letter. And as we discussed, there are other people out there who do it, who are bona fide medical professionals, veterans themselves, and they have served, and some of them in the Gulf War era, and so they do know what they're talking about. So I go back and forth. I think it's a great service. If it's
I
legit.
think it is too. I think it is too.
If it's
I think
legit.
nexus letters are important, especially if you keep getting denied for something that you have presumptive over. I mean, that's why you go out and you find somebody, a doctor who will write. But what they're going after is fraudulent.
Right.
And let me tell you, I know people that literally that start a business and all they do is write nexus letters. They go out and find veterans. And I mean, I see the site up there, that the Nexus, on there, the one website I'm on, the Veterans Nexus people, I think they're completely legit. But there are services now that are coming out that people are like, hey, I can make a business out of this. And so that's exactly what I'm going to do. Let me tell you something. You're walking a fine line if you do not know how to do a nexus letter properly. And I'm not bashing on the veterans nexus letter page that I'm on, because I believe in it. And I believe them people know exactly what they're doing. They look it all up. But the fraudulent part is coming out now because they just caught a guy not that long ago at Disney World, posted on his Facebook page, that was wheelchair bound, riding rides, getting out of the rides, walking and getting into a wheelchair. But he was permanently on Social Security. He could never walk again. And so he used the system. They caught him walking through Disney's. And then also they're going after people and they're relooking at claims on PTSD, and which I should. I believe in PTSD wholeheartedly, but I also believe that some people take PTSD and put it in not as managed depression. Like we had that one chaplain on, that counselor, that literally said there's a difference between PTSD and managed depression. And so and here's another thing. I finally am starting to listen to almost on the news. I mean, it doesn't matter, Fox News, CBS, NBC. Have y'all started hearing them starting to play veterans sign up for the VA for your benefits? Have y'all seen that?
No.
I think I've seen it. I think I might have seen one or two commercials. Yes.
They are. Yeah. They're starting to come out with commercials telling veterans that you have earned benets,
which is really good.
And that's the bill that's the bill that I sent y'all saying, and I sent to all of them, in which I think it's a great thing. I think they need to have, commercials, because there's a lot of vets out there that don't know that they got benefits. And I'm not talking about disability. I'm talking about all kinds.
Right.
And so that's one of the biggest things is we need to get a hold of veterans for them to be able to have benefits and to start understanding some of their ailments that they have will get worse down the road if they don't know what's going on with them.
And I think this is a proper place to put this information out there. Speaking of benefits, if you have a loved one, if you're the spouse of a veteran or have a friend, in my case, it was a next door neighbor, and they're getting benefits, regardless if they're rated or not, and that individual passes away. Do yourself a solid and make sure that if he or she went to the hospital, if they're no longer with us, and whether they were service connected or not, these bills could be getting paid. And I know that there's a bunch of variables, because anybody that's ever dealt with a VA, it's just how the politics of that system works. 2 and 2 is not 4. There's a lot of ins and outs, but those who have loved ones that pass away and like, well, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with these bills? Are the VA supposed to be? You get a hold of your VSO or whoever, the RN, the CNA, the CMA, the orthopedic person, whoever was taking care of your loved one, and ask them for that question. If they don't know, ask to be directed to somebody who can answer that, because that could be a huge burden to a family that shouldn't have to pay it if things line up, so.
Right. And and Denise Nichols rolling here, a specialist, not a nurse practitioner. Well, I can tell you, Denise, right off the bat, I know nurse practitioners who write Nexus letters. And I think that's why they're going. I think that's why.
My last one was a nurse practitioner, my last comp and pen. And she was a pain nurse practitioner trying to evaluate me for cluster headaches, which is a neurological condition. And that's where I got into the big thing with it. It's well beyond her scope of her specialty. She knew absolutely nothing about cluster headaches. But she still wrote my comp and pen in my Nexus letter.
But she gave you a CMP.
But yeah, she gave me a all right. So you were just talking about these Nexus letters over here. What this particular one was a contract nurse practitioner. That's what they're sending a lot of these comp and pens out to, as contractors. Isn't she doing the same thing? She's getting her $500. She's going to see this veteran for 5 minutes. She's going to write an opinion and she's going to collect her money.
That's it. She's writing a Nexus letter, but
so she's doing the same damn thing. I'd rather send it to somebody that's a veteran, somebody that's actually been through the whole system and who knows what they're talking about.
And I also think that for somebody who is suffering for like PTSD, I think buddy letters are really important, because buddy letters literally will tell them exactly what you have gone through. Your buddies can't write you a Nexus letter or anything like that, but they're called buddy letters that the VA does use. And especially for, I remember whenever he was lifting up a engine off of a crane and it fell on him and he hurt his back. If your buddies have seen it and all that, have them write your buddy a letter. I do agree with that. And so, I know one of the questions I think I have for you on this one, Wade, was, okay, so somebody who spent 4 years into the military and they don't exhibit this. This was a question that was asked me by one of my customers. Even though they're not exhibiting problems right now, but their kids are, should they go get a full workup exam and find out what's going on with them?
I would definitely get registered, obviously. And then if you're a Gulf War Desert Storm veteran, now with the whole PACT Act, now we have the toxic exposure exam. That's part of it. And I'd request that exam. And get in the system. What are you going to do if you should happen to die? You're not in the system. Your kids are hurting, another 20 years down the road. There's no record. Get in the system.
Right. Now see, I agree with that. You should go do it. But he was asking me, should he go get all the blood work, everything he can to figure out why his kids have the same thing my daughter does. Now, you think about that. He's not showing any symptoms, but his kids are showing symptoms of the Gulf War.
he does something like that, that's going to be an out-of-pocket thing. You know, when you go for your toxic exposure exam, they're only going to draw what they want to draw.
Right. Right.
You know, until there's a program that includes the dependents, you know, you're on your own. A mutual friend of ours who has issues with her kids, and she paid to have genetic testing done. And, you know, that's an out-of-pocket. You know, so I mean, you want to spend your money, that's fine, and I'm all for that. I've spent a lot of my own money for my own blood tests.
She paid for genetic testing.
Paid for genetic testing.
I honestly believe that, to me, that's very important. And that's what I told him. And my opinion on that would be, and I know he'll listen tonight, my opinion on it is, go get every test you can that relates to what your kids have, and just see, because another year it may start showing up. And
this shit just shows up out of the blue.
And so one guy, I don't know where it's at, but he put down there, he was like, hey, he goes, man, I got itchy eyes, runny diarrhea. He goes, headaches. And he said, back pain, joint pain. I feel like my feet are on fire. I mean, he named off so much stuff, and he hasn't been rated. He's right. But he's been denied. He's been denied for it all. And to me, and he said he's been through a VSO. He's been through, he used a VSO, and he's getting to the point that he's about to go see the judge. And that's why I recommended him to go see an attorney. I said, because I learned that part. When you're going to go up in front of that judge, I think you ought to have an attorney with you, an experienced attorney.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's messed up when you're denied.
I had a case before the judge. My VSO, he was, you know, Johnny on the spot. He knew everything, you know, and he did great. And to go before a judge hearing it, it's a very relaxed environment. It's no more than, like, sometimes they're doing it by Zoom now.
Yes.
And so, I mean, and this is something, you know, I beat to the dead drum, I know, but I'm not talking about this individual. I'm talking about us Desert Storm veterans as a whole. We are getting older. Our bodies are getting older. So, you know, you have to be conscious, aware, and that's what they're starting to look at specifically. You know, my big toe hurts. I got Gulf War illness. No, you're old. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. You know,
John, you're old.
Yeah, I gained 15 pounds and I have severe diarrhea. Well, stop going to fast food, follow a decent diet, and maybe that might clear you up. You know, it just irritates the hell out of me trying to, you know, to get through different people, you know, but always follow through. I'm not saying that they're melanderers or they're faking it. I'm just saying you have got to take a step back and look at yourself, your lifestyle, and how you've lived the last 30 years.
All right, yeah. Right. And you want to change it while you're in your 50s instead of try to change it while you're in your 70s.
Oh, absolutely.
I preach that. I preach that a lot. Now, the other thing is, okay, I asked this question. So I went, when we were at church, I walked up to a pastor who was also in Desert Storm. And I asked him, and this has been weighing on me for a lot of veterans and everything. I said, when we go to war and we go to combat and people die, how does God look at us at that end? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, does he look at it because of the 10 Commandments? This guy is a really good pastor, and he looked at me and he said, I was there. Yes, I know you were there. And he goes, the 10 Commandments, where it says, I shall not kill, means premeditated. He goes, God sent out, people. And so I was like, and I want to bring him on here, and I want to bring Pastor Green up on here because he counsels veterans. And I want both pastors to come up differently and talk, because I think that a lot of people have questions. I don't know about y'all, but I hope my chaplain's not listening, but he was not a good spiritual leader. I'm sorry, he wasn't. He was not good. You know, when somebody rings the bell saying, hey, ding, 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 I'm the bearer of bad news, bearer of bad news. Hey, your mom, dad, come with me. That's just no. And I remember him doing that. And I just, nope, nope. And so, but I always, as that, with me being Christian, I wanted to know that. And he gave a really good response to me. So if anybody ever has that question, there you go. That's the answer I got. Now, the other question that I have also on this panel that I've heard before. Okay, so you're going to the VA and somebody's rated at 100%. Okay, so you're going down and you're doing all the stuff getting done. And now your kids and your wife, or if they're underage, certain age, they can get on healthcare, they can get on this. Let's talk a little bit about Chapter 35, because a lot of people are really, really sent a lot of messages about Chapter 35. Let me explain what Chapter 35 is. It's educational benefits. You can use them, your spouse can use them, and your kid under the age of 26 is supposed to be able to use them. I can tell you from what I know of it and what I read about it, I can only tell y'all this. Even if your child does not live in your home and they go to college and they're under them ages, even if they're married, they can still file Chapter 35. And that way they get living expenses paid for.
As long as you were rated at 100%. Yes. And they have to be below the age of 26 when that was done. Yes.
Right. And so,
and for whatever reason, your wife, and I don't know, the category there is different, because that same terminology is different for your spouse. Clearly the age category, that's null and void, evidently, at that point.
No, but they still get it. Chapter 35.
No. I know. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't it's with your kids, they have to go into it before the age of 26, and you would have had to have been at 100%. The wife, obviously, that doesn't.
The criteria doesn't matter.
Right.
Especially because, see, the way they look at it is the wife, they know the veteran is disabled. So the wife is going to be the caretaker. She's the one that's probably going to be the money maker. And they want her to have a better education to help out with a veteran. That's what I was told about it by the VA. And which I credit the VA for that, because they're looking out for the veteran and his best interest. And I mean, use it. If you're at 100%, your wife wants to go back to school, you should. You should use it.
And a lot of people out there that, let's say, are listening and have a kid that's going to go to school and wants to do that. How much is Uncle Sam going to pony up for that individual to go to school? You know the number.
Right.
$1,500 a month, something like that. Okay, so $1,500 a month, tax free. That's better than kicking the backside.
If they're going to go ahead and wipe people's
student loans,
schooling, all their, what's that called again?
Their student loan forgiveness.
Student loan.
Yeah,
if they're going to wipe some of them clean, I mean, every veteran should be using that program for their kids.
Hell yes. I mean, and I've come across a few veterans that, let's be honest, they're a lot of us were naive, including myself. You don't know, as the saying goes, you don't know what you don't know. And when you talked about it, because that's what we're doing here, we're sharing information that we personally or know somebody that's dealt with it, and listen, don't feel guilty, for heaven's sakes. They don't think twice. I know there's circumstances with everything. How many billions of dollars does our government put, whether overseas for various things? We hear about, veterans that are homeless. That shouldn't even exist. Now, some of them veterans are by choice because they got mental issues and they just don't want to deal with it.
No,
That's their prerogative.
but the thing is,
But
though, John, to me, they didn't get the proper help in the very beginning.
I don't disagree a bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No doubt in my mind. And I
Right.
mean, there should not, even if they got mental issues, even if they want to be homeless, build them a homeless little house. I mean, come on. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know.
How long does it take to throw up a GP medium or GP,
and hey, I'm grateful for Wounded Warriors. I'm grateful for, Tower,
Tunnels to towers.
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
grateful for any organization out there that helps veterans out, but there should not have to be an organization to help veterans out. That's my personal belief. You want to pop a question at me about, okay, should people have to funnel money to outside organizations to help a vet? No, they're right there, shut down. The VA should be on top of that shit like that. That's exactly how I feel about it. And it makes me mad that they're not.
I do have a problem with various organizations that want to help veterans, but then what does the CEO of that organization get? What does that individual get taught to do this? I have a huge problem with that. How much money is going to them?
Right.
Pisses me off.
I can tell you there is quite like Camp Hope. None. That's just straight up for vets.
That's the way it should be.
Well, that's what I was going to say is, I mean, and I'm not promoting, I'm just saying me personally. So don't take that as a promotion, but Tunnels to Towers, that is literally the only organization that I give to on a monthly basis. And you're right. You can go up and you can Google how much of every dollar goes into servicing those veterans. And the last time I looked, it's 98%. I think that's pretty goddamn good.
Yeah.
And what I think in something like that for an organization that has shown a history and has shown a positive track record, whatever they get in contributions, I feel the government needs to match. That's just me.
I mean, I agree. As long as they don't take a chunk of money, run off with it, I agree with that. I think any organization that is considered a nonprofit should not make a profit. I mean, they got to pay their people some, but
there's always administrative fees. If you ever run a business, you know that.
Right. Now, the last thing that we're going to go over, and I want to discuss this, there's this one guy that I'm not even going to bring up his name on here, but he was talking about eyeglasses. And I think that was an important question. When, the VA has eye doctors, use them. If you don't have to be 100% to go in and get your eyes checked. But when y'all go to buy glasses, I mean, most places you go are $300 because you got to get the lens scratch and all that. But there's websites out there. And I know the VA has glasses. You can go up there and do them, but I think you have to be 100% for that. And I think it's $60 for the eye glare protection. But there are websites that you can go on and get your glasses for a whole lot cheaper. And Wade, you were talking about one.
Yeah. One I personally used for a long time is called Zenni, Zenni. Very simple. You do have to have a current prescription, of course.
Right.
Obviously, you would think you'd want to, but whatever. You do everything online. You pick out the glasses. You sit there. It takes a picture of the glasses on your face. I've probably been using them better than 10 years now.
Really?
I think I've never paid over $20 for a pair.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll get two pair. And they offer all the extra scratch and tint, anything else extra you want to pay for, but I don't get it. And $20, it's a hell of a deal.
So
that's awesome. So
free prescriptions to go in, get your eyes checked free. Do it. Go in and do it. They write the prescription right then and there.
That's perfect. See, I use, I don't know what the terminology today is, photo grays or whatever, when they turn dark when I go out at night. I do know that when you get in a vehicle, even if you have photo grays on your glasses, once you get in your vehicle, that don't work in a side of a vehicle. You got to have a separate set of prescription sunglasses or clip-ons or something, because these
Yeah,
ain't, your
but
photo grays ain't going to cut it anymore.
John, you
So
shouldn't be driving at night. Come on, man. That was the perfect time for that comment. I don't care what you say. That was the perfect time for that comment. I've been waiting for that one, man. And
you're an asshole.
I know. And also, and there are now like organizations that are coming up that are now getting, training service dogs. And they're out there. We know one, and right here's Sit Happens Dog Training LLC, and we had her on the program.
That's Linda's organization, right?
Yes,
Linda. I don't
yeah.
remember her
And
last
so
name.
I'm hoping that she gets it up and running, everything's going, and because I think that's a great organization, and
yeah, absolutely.
and all that. Now, are there any other questions we want to go over? Wade?
I had something I wanted to throw out there if I could. We discussed it last week, but I'm on the search. I'm doing a kind of a side thing going on here, but I'm on the search for any veteran that has verifiable proof, i.e. a lab test, that they've tested positive for the Mycoplasma M. fermentin strain. This may be like Greek language to a lot of people. If you have tested positive, then you know what it is. And verifiable, you've got to have a lab test. No, it doesn't have to be current, just a lab test. I have only, other than myself, I know that they did a study with it, so I know I'm not the only one. But I've only run across one other individual posting on Facebook. But I'm looking for names and proof. So we got some side stuff going on directly dealing with that. So that's my last word for the night.
Right. Oh, and and Jeff, I like Jeff's comment. Why do we have to get eyeglasses from the VA when they can outsource us to go to an eye clinic? And yes, they do. They will. If you can't get in over 30 days, they'll send you out. They can send you out.
But on that point, because I'm not positive on this one, we talk periodically about care in the community. There are variables. Like for me to go get eyeglasses, I would have to drive to Des Moines. That's an 80-mile drive. So therefore, I should qualify because of the mileage. I don't know what the exact mileage is, folks. You can look it up. I'm sure somebody, if you know by any means, let us know. Maybe next time if I come up with it. But if it's too many miles from your location to get to them, they will pay for care in the community for you to go to your own optometrist and perhaps pick out glasses. But I'm assuming that Uncle Sam's only going to say you can only, if you, spend so much on what they offer, or you can use like what Wade was just saying, what Zenny was the name of the website, Zebra Echo November India, if I wrote it down right. So I mean,
that should have answered Denise's question, because on there, so it starts with a Z. So
correct. That's the other thing too, Kevin, is, and like me, I wear contacts 90% of the time. I still get my contact prescription from the VA, and that's up to the optometrist. I just happen to have a very cool optometrist. The very first visit I went in, I took in an empty box of what I was wearing, and he was more than obliging to do it, give me a prescription for my contacts, which, yes, you have to purchase outside the VA, but that's what I want. So, but my prescription was free.
Well, they offered me in the VA to get contacts. And I said, I am not touching my damn eyeball. Sorry. No, thank you. I'm not touching my eyeball. Can't do it. That is the one thing in this world besides spiders I'm deathly scared of, is touching my eyeball. I just can't do it.
And before somebody busts
I won't let them put the drops in my eyes. because
But
I
you-
will freak out. I'm telling you, man, y'all have no idea. I'm scared to death that something touch my eyes.
That's funny. I'm real sensitive in my eyes. I just want to say, because I caught myself before somebody busts my chops and say, "Doesn't John know what the hell phonetic alphabet is?" You said zebra. I know typically it's Zulu. I don't know why the hell I said zebra. FYI, I know it. So somebody busts my chops, and yes, I know the phonetic alphabet should be Zulu, not zebra. You idiot. Got it. So
Denise said Z as in zebra or Zulu.
you just it's Zulu.
And you can say zebra. Man,
Initially, I
it
did, and
starts
I
with
caught
Z.
myself. I know, but phonetically, that isn't how
Zucchini.
Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, blah, 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 blah. You know?
Zucchini doesn't
So,
start with Z. Somebody's gonna bust my chops for Glenn. Somebody's gonna have to edit this part out. I can tell you that right now.
oh, shit.
Yeah, well, you know what though? I mean, I like doing the questions and answers because over time, people need a refresher on asking questions, and there's new people that may not know and they want to re-ask the questions. I don't mind, you know, and for everybody, let y'all know, y'all go check out our YouTube channel. We're trying to build that page up. And the more we get on there, the more we can able to get it so we can get on to be able to go live on that also at the same time. So we're trying to build up there, you know, and if you need the information, it's Go for Side Effects. I was asked that the other day. Don't ask me why. I was asked that the other day when somebody literally sent me a message on that site. And so, and I'm not even going to bring up the name. They're not listening right now, but somebody literally said, "What's the name of the podcast on YouTube?" I guess
Okay.
there are different names. I don't know. And so, but also catch us on Patreon. Patreon, you can go on there and you can literally, you know, catch up on the latest episodes and also the after show. Which is one of my favorite parts of this.
And we listen to
we
all
talk
the
about
bullshit that we talk
anything.
about afterwards.
The stuff we say afterwards, it does apply to the VA, but also applies to about everything around the world. I think we get into to anything and everything. So catch us on Patreon. And so I want to thank everybody for listening tonight. And y'all have a great night. Thank you, you two, for coming on.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Have a good night.